What's going on YouTube? Crazy675 here. A while back I was watching a couple videos actually. A couple motovloggers did this 10 things you hate about your bike. So I figured I'd give that a go. Show you guys a couple things. Most of the stuff I don't like I've changed, but that's the beauty of owning a motorcycle. You know, all the mods you get to do, stuff like that. So without further ado, here's the 10 things I hate about my bike. Number 1 on the list is my biggest pet peeve here. Try to block some of the wind for you guys. Is there's a valve in the exhaust. It's closed when it's in neutral and then open while it's in gear. And from what I could find online, it's purely for a noise ordinance kind of thing. So it's kind of silly, kind of dumb, especially because they've had issues with it. Triumph's not the only one. The easiest fix for that is a aftermarket exhaust, which is in the works, or you know, it's in the plans of things to replace on the motorcycle. Second thing I hated about the motorcycle was the wheelie bar that was on the back of this thing. Now it's this Evotech tail tighty. It looks much better than the stock unit. The stock one was this big old thing, and it would sit there about like that, so you can see it's pretty obnoxious. So the Evotech cleans that up quite nicely. So the next thing on the list is actually it's the windscreen. I didn't really notice it much until you started riding it. The stock windscreen at the back here stood about an inch and a half lower. So as you're riding the bike, especially at higher speeds, freeway speeds, stuff like that, the wind resistance was pretty heavy on you, and especially if you're trying to full tuck, it was a little rough. Next thing I didn't like about the bike, and I still don't, is the headlights. They look great and all, but and apparently I need to start it to show you guys this. This bike has the one headlight thing for the low beam and both headlights for the high beam. So it's kind of annoying. People stop me all the time and say, hey, you got a headlight out. And I'm like, well, no, I don't, but thanks. So usually I end up riding around with the high beam on. I did readjust it so the high beam isn't quite so high, so I'm not blinding people all the time, but again, kind of annoying because the older Daytonas, it was dual high, dual low, and yeah, I don't know. It's I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to take care of that yet, but I've got a couple ideas. Next on the list is parts from overseas to fix this thing. Kind of a pain being in the States over here, especially in Wisconsin. We don't really have anything in stock to fix this thing. So it's kind of a pain in the ass when it does break down. It takes a couple weeks to get parts. So far I've been lucky. Only issue I've had is that exhaust part, the little valve I mentioned before. So one of the first things I did on the bike, I didn't even own the bike for like 3 hours, is the reflectors that are normally right here. Took those off right away. I think they look silly. Most bikes come with them, but what do you do? It's just a 10 mil bolt, comes right off. So next on the list is the clutch lever. So there is no adjustment on this one in terms of, you know, distance between the bar and the lever. On the brake side, you do have the adjuster here, which is kind of interesting because on the wife's street to triple, as you can see, both levers are adjustable. So why Triumph decided that the Street Triple should get it and the Daytona R should not, I don't entirely understand, but it is what it is. Next up on the list was the stock turn signals. They are no longer on the motorcycle. You can kind of see how they are on my wife's bike. They stick out like that. The Daytona was similar. Pretty much the same thing. What I ended up going with was Watson Design LED turn signals. The rears I custom mounted here, and then in the front is those cute little guys. And earlier I was looking at it and the camera doesn't do these justice, so I'm not going to bother turning them on. Plus there's loads of videos online of these. They are lifetime warranty, so if the LEDs ever burn out, I can just call him up, be like, hey, got one burnt out. He'll send me out a new set. The only kind of crappy thing is he's a one-man show out of Canada, so his turnaround time is literally a couple months, but well worth the wait and the money. They're not too terribly expensive, but they are so worth it. And then last but not least, the last thing was just kind of a pet peeve. Our old motorcycle, the 2007 GSX-R 600, actually most of the Gixxers I've seen, they had a hazard switch, so you could turn the four-ways on, you know, if you're parked on the side of the road for an emergency or whatever. Well, the Daytona didn't come with that. So what I ended up doing is I put a switch down here, and there's a little flasher controller thing underneath the seat. You can see it flashing there on the dash. So I now have basically a hazard switch. I don't use them too often, but it's nice to know that if I'm ever on the side of the road, in conjunction with how bright those LEDs are, people will see me. So that's kind of nice. So there you have it. Those are the actually 9 things I don't like about my bike, but most of which I've already changed. So we will see you guys next time.